I didn't see the original speech. I didn't even see the original coverage of the speech because there was like some New York Post and the Guardian and a whole bunch of places talking about, oh my gosh, this bloodbath. This sounds just like Hitler. Hitler. Oh well, that's pretty bad. This sounds just like Mussolini. It sounds like Mussolini plus Hitler plus Stalin. In fact, I think every bad person that's ever existed in the human experience uses the word bloodbath. Yeah, is what the coverage was. Okay, so when I start paying attention, I'm already way past that. I'm behind the times. I'm a good day behind the news cycle. I was first introduced to this story and Bloodbath without clicking through and reading the headlines, just seeing headlines. This was already taken care of by last night. The folks at Grabian is a media company, and you just need to know their name because they make the best montages ever. Grabian had put together a media montage of all the times these people in the media had used the term bloodbath, and they act like this is the worst. I'm doing this out of order on purpose. I'm not going to play you the clip of him actually saying bloodbath until you can hear some of their reporting and then hear them, because I want you to think, wow, this must be terrible, because the way they report it, they just went nuts on it. Absolute nuts. So the first thing I saw was Grabian's montage of everyone in the media and politicians that were condemning Trump for saying bloodbath. But I want to play you even before that. See, I'm doing this all backwards, but it works. I want to play you some of the coverage that happened. So he said this Saturday afternoon. Sunday, they go out there, and I'll do Jen Psaki on MSNBC. This is her comments on the bloodbath. And I just want you to start ruminating in your head how bad these comments could be to get this kind of coverage.
Late yesterday afternoon, Donald Trump spoke at a rally in Ohio, and we decided we have to start here.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. Now, the Trump team quickly said last night, nothing to see here. He was just talking about the auto industry. Consider the full context, everyone. Otherwise, it's irresponsible.
All right. Now, she says, yeah, so we just need to put this into full context. That's the Trump defense. And that was the Trump defense when I first saw it going in Saturday and Sunday, the first time I actually was trying to get deeper into this story. That was some of the pushback. They were like, oh, look, if you play this whole thing in context, well, then it totally blows these headlines out of the water from Sunday morning. But she doesn't play you the context. She tells you the context. And all she does is tell you some straw man fantasy version of what the rest of the speech said.
Well,
but she doesn't actually
play it. If they
play
want us to consider the full context, let's do just that. Because the full context is that Trump kicked off this same exact rally by saluting the people who were convicted for the deadly assault on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
She used the word deadly, the deadly assault. January 6th. We know only one person died. We know who it is. We know who did it, and we know it wasn't a protester. We know the protesters killed 0 people that day. So she's already lying to you. So we start with the context. She's starting with false context. Well, look, if the facts are on your side, why do you have to lie? Why do you have to throw that in there?
All to the tune of the national anthem sung by a choir of imprisoned insurrectionists. The full context.
Insurrectionists. None of them have been charged with insurrection. They're in prison. She calls them imprisoned insurrectionists. 0% of them charged with insurrection. Another lie.
Is that some of the first words out of Trump's mouth last night, same rally, were thanking those rioters and calling them patriots. The full context is that he also said in this same rally, quote, if this election isn't won, I'm not sure that you'll ever have another election in this country.
So
the full context is that he went on to say some undocumented immigrants are, quote, not people. And of course, the full context is that this is much bigger than one single speech. This embrace of political violence, this dehumanizing language. This is what Donald Trump has been preaching for years.
All right. Now, you know I have the receipts, and you know I'm going to for real play you the full not the whole speech, but the full comments in context. I'll give you like 40 seconds before what he says and another 10 seconds afterwards. You can tell that what Jen Psaki says here, not even close. But hang on, let's let her go. Let's let her run a little bit more, okay?
And during his first term, he flat out refused to condemn the political violence at a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia.
All right, well, that's another lie. Guess what? I have the receipts. She says he doesn't condemn them. Here he is condemning
You're
them.
changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
Okay, so that's a nice little burn there. How many lies can we squeeze in here?
And during his
Let's try this
first
again.
term, he flat out refused to condemn the political violence at a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, saying there were very fine people on both sides. In 2020, he reportedly asked his defense secretary about shooting people who were protesting the death of George Floyd, saying, "Can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something." And of course, his very words inspired violence on January 6, 2021, when he told a crowd of his supporters to walk down to the Capitol and fight like hell because, quote, "You'll never take back our country with weakness." Trust me, I could go on and on and on.
No, you can't. You can't go on. You can't even play the actual clip in context. You have to make up some straw man context in order for your criticism to be valid. I don't. I have the receipts. I have the full clips. But hey, they're not the only ones who got that idea. It wasn't just NBC News. The New York Times had a headline. Trump says some migrants are not people and predicts a bloodbath if he loses. So they're clearly making it sound like he's threatening violence if he doesn't win the election. Right? CBS News. In Ohio campaign rally, Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he loses November election. It's funny how they all are getting this wrong. It's almost like they send each other, they're on like a group text. And they're like, let's focus on this bloodbath thing and act like he meant to say that we're gonna be committing violence. People in MAGA hats, there's going to be mobs of MAGA hats out there beating the snot out of people if he doesn't win. Really? Because that's not their MO. Out of all the people we saw throwing bricks through windows and beating the snot out of people in the streets and rioting and stuff, we know who does that. It's not people in MAGA hats. Yahoo News. Donald Trump warns of a bloodbath if he loses to Joe Biden. Los Angeles Times. Trump's bloodbath comments in Ohio downplayed by campaign. CNN. Trump warns a bloodbath for auto industry and country if he loses the election. At least they threw in auto industry. We know he didn't mean for the whole country. I'll play you the whole clips in a minute because you got to hear more of the hyperventilating. That's what makes it so hilarious. Forbes. An even darker Trump. Trump warns of bloodbath if not elected and calls some migrants animals. France 24, or Van Coron. Trump warns U.S. voters of a bloodbath if he loses presidential election. ABC News. Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he loses 2024 election. Ramps up anti-migrant. ... Daily Beast. Trump, who cares what they say? But still, the point is they got it wrong. Trump declares it will be a bloodbath for auto industry if he's not elected. Oh, that's actually pretty close to the truth. That's actually what there. The Daily Beast is the reasonable one out of them. The one that's like actually admits that they're biased. They're the ones that have the least propagandistic headline. But let me show you some more of the coverage here. Let me play Jen Psaki on MSNBC. Some more of her comments on this bloodbath from Trump.
We all know by now that Trump's allusions to political violence are not merely rhetorical. His supporters take them literally. That's part of the big problem here.
See, that's a lie. There's show me one act of violence that has been committed by someone in a MAGA hat. Like his supporters are running around, burning down major metropolitan downtowns all over America. Oh, no, wait. That's the left. That's whether it's BLM or Antifa or anytime someone wants to occupy a bunch of parks in the middle of towns. It's never Trump supporters doing this. Anyway, so I love this fantasy. This is like fantasy fiction. This is like Handmaid's Tale. They just want to live. They just want to think that they're fighting some sort of injustice or some sort of neo-Nazi.
And he knows that too. So no, we did not miss the full context. This was not some meandering off-message comment. This is his message. As the Biden campaign put it, this is who Donald Trump is. A loser who gets beat by over 7 million votes and then instead of appealing to a wider mainstream audience, doubles down on his threats of political violence.
Like, it makes sense. She was literally the spokesman for the previous administration, Jen Psaki. She's been a spokesman for Democrats. She has a show. She should just go ahead and admit it. Hey, I'm so ridiculously biased. I will stretch these comments out of context as far as I can just to paint a picture of some, bloodthirsty threat of violence if he loses. Here's what he actually said in full context. And this is not going to end the story, by the way.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine.
Yeah. And then he goes on to talk about a friend of mine, whatever. So that's the bloodbath. He uses the term right there. Clearly, he's talking about the manufacturing part of the auto industry. There's going to be they're going to lose all kinds of manufacturing more to Mexico and China. Clearly, he's not threatening violence. If he loses the election, there's going to be roving bands of his supporters. Just, I don't know what, kicking people? Just burning stuff down, torches and pitchforks style? Because it'd be the first right-wing riot in the history of America. But what I thought would be the end of the story, and it's not, is a montage that Grabian put out of all these people using Bloodbath, of all the headlines that I just read you in this segment and some of the clips that I've played you. This should have ended it. But I'm coming up next. I'm going to play you the montage from Grabian exposing all these people who think Bloodbath is now Nazi propaganda. They're saying it. They're using it in the exact same way that they're accusing Trump of using it, and they somehow escape criticism. And then on top of that, I'm going to show you how they're not letting it go. Even today, this morning, they're still going to try and run with it. Now that you've heard the full context, now that you've heard the montage, now that it's been passed around, they're sticking with the lie. Man, we forgot how crazy presidential media coverage can be, right? Especially during an election year. Okay, so the bloodbath comments from Trump over the weekend sparked an initial wave of negative reporting. Who on earth talks like this? Well, I know who talks like this. Hitler talks like this. Stalin talks like this. All the worst dictators and autocrats in world history say things like bloodbath. I played you that. I played you some of the original reporting on Sunday from MSNBC. Well, within hours, probably minutes, Grabian has a montage of all these other people. I read from you: ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, some overseas places, Daily Beast, all of them just going crazy that Trump said bloodbath. Well, from Grabian Media, here is them saying bloodbath, just like Trump.
But as Politico.com reports tonight on the, quote, bloodbath at the RNC,
headlines calling it a, quote, bloodbath.
Be a bloodbath. Not only is it going to be a bloodbath, but after they leave New Hampshire, it's a bloodbath on her home turf. That's really tough. Trump has left a lot of corpses in his wake. I mean, we can count the bodies as part of the, quote, MAGA drive to take over Maricopa County. And the headline refers to it as an impending bloodbath.
columnist Charles Blow has a new piece for the New York Times entitled A Biden Bloodbath.
2018 midterms, you can bet that they 100% are fearing a slaughter. In fact, the word bloodbath and massacre come up frequently.
The Republican Party will be destroyed. It's going to be a bloodbath.
There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath. They're shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats, a bloodbath at the ballot box.
There could be a Republican bloodbath.
They'll talk about a bloodbath.
It's a bloodbath. I have to talk about you. And
It's going to be a bloodbath all day long.
Is in for a bloodbath.
Hasn't been a bloodbath on the way down.
Donald.
I'm just going to stop this. There's a whole nother minute of that. You get the point, right? Yeah. Everyone says bloodbath all the time when it comes to election results, but somehow when Orange Man says it, bad, Nazi, everything else. Everyone else has been saying it your entire life. You're not crazy. You have heard that word used over and over and over. And the situation that they actually pretended it was in, but when you take it out of context, turns out it's not. Even after they're exposed yesterday, they are still sticking with their story today. We go to Morning Joe, MSNBC. If you wonder why your liberal friends think the way they do, this is the media they're consuming. This is the lies that they're consuming. This is why they hate Trump so bad. This is why it doesn't matter if Joe Biden had just run around bumping into walls like a Roomba. It doesn't matter if he can't remember when his own son died. It doesn't matter if he just has weird stops in the middle of sentences and he can barely walk. They think they're fighting this guy. They think they're fighting Hitler. Here's Mika Brzezinski.
Michael Beschloss, I want to ask you about Donald Trump increasingly sounding like a fascist, a dictator, mimicking them, and using words that are clearly out of the pages of some of the most powerful autocrats or dictators of our time in the world. And I guess the fear is that for some Americans who may not be informed about history, there's that vulnerability that Trump preys upon. And then there are those who are making the choice. And I need to understand that. Is there any precedent? Or is this how fascism works? Are they sucked in and brought in on different terms, whether Trump has something on some Republican leaders or others are just so uninformed they don't care? Is it a mixture? How does it work? Is there a precedent?
Well, I totally agree with what you've just said, Mika, and that's how fascism and totalitarianism, and in Germany's case, the Holocaust came to Germany, which had been a country where there were big institutions.
We finally got the Hitler/Holocaust reference out of this. I just played you every single person in the media that's ever covered an election throwing in the word bloodbath concerning the results of an election. Are they Hitler? Are they trying to bring back the Holocaust? Everybody, calm down. You might not like the guy on the other team wearing the other jersey, but there's only one Hitler in history, and his name is Hitler. That's it. You may not like the guy on the other side. You may like your guy better. You may think he's bad for the country, but nobody is Hitler. Just go ahead, go to Office Depot, get a chair, and sit all the way down.